All right, everybody, thank you for joining us today. We're certainly excited to talk about the future of the game. I'll be moderating today, Robert Rodriguez. To my right, Johnny Andres, Deputy Counsel at the MLS PA. You have Aldo Comi, CEO and founder of Soccerment. And then you have Christian Lau, Chief Technology Officer at LAFC. I think we all sort of either have been impacted or in some ways are using AI at the moment. And I think its impact across the game, right, is a discussion that many of us are having probably on a daily basis. I think we're excited about the panel that we have today in terms of the opportunity to talk about the game and the future that AI is bringing to us on a daily basis. With that said, Aldo, I'll turn it over to you to sort of kick things off in terms of both how you see Soccerment changing the game. I know you guys are involved in a couple different opportunities across the AI space, both in wearables as well as software. So turn it to you to open us up.
Thank you. So yeah, at Soccerment we are deeply involved with AI. AI is playing a pivotal role when it comes to our mission. Our mission is to accelerate the adoption of data analytics in sports. And as I said, AI is part of everything that we do at Soccerment. We use machine learning, we use large language models, we use neural network. So everything in what we do is deeply involved with AI. And when I see around, I see people that do not know that AI is the present and they think AI is only the future. While my message is AI is the present. It's already in our lives. Obviously, it will have an increasing impact in our lives as well as in sports in the next future. But AI is here. And AI is so here that I'm glad to announce the launch of the first AI Data Analyst, a virtual assistant for every coach and even every player. So let me introduce you to AIDA, our artificial intelligence data analyst.
In the xvalue AIDA app, to complete a player analysis, you can get started by clicking the suggested buttons in the player analysis section, or simply tell AIDA exactly what you're after. In this example, let's say we want more information on Erling Haaland's seasonal performance so far. We enter our query and wait a few seconds for our answer to be generated. This toggle in the top right corner can change the style of the output. By keeping it selected, it will generate an advanced answer, with much more contextual information on the player as a whole. While if we deselect this option, then the answer will include the most important information in a shorter reply. This answer gives us a lot of information on Haaland's season. AIDA starts by giving us some basic information on the player, such as his role, minutes played, goals and assists, and then proceeds to divide the answer into different categories that are relevant for the player selected. AIDA shows us that Haaland has an XG of 9.4 and that he has a goal per XG ratio of 1.2, highlighting his above-average shooting ability. We also get more tactical.
Yeah, so this is our virtual tool, our artificial intelligence data analyst that will serve coaches, and it's already serving coaches in Italy and in Europe, and hopefully soon in the US as well. Yeah, I think AI will deeply impact football in many ways. I see at least 7 ways. We saw with match analysis, for instance, AIDA does that. Scouting, that is another part that will be impacted a lot by AI, and AIDA helps at scouting players. Then we have refereeing. Refereeing will soon be impacted by AI. I wouldn't be surprised to see in 20 years, 10, 20 years, semi-automated refereeing. I think that ticketing is one area where AI will impact a lot football, and then fan engagement, of course. Fan engagement is another area very interesting.
And Aldo, right now, there's a few governing bodies that are using AI right on the field, as you mentioned. How do you sort of see that evolving both as the technology, right, obviously will develop, but in the immediate future, both with Copa America, there's tournaments that are coming. Just curious how you see the on-field side of AI being used in the next 6 to 12 months.
Well, in the next 12 months, I think in-play match analysis will change a lot. I think the input provided by AI will become interesting. As I said, match analysis is one of the most interesting areas. I mean, we saw with some AIs that they can provide very counterintuitive but very helpful insights. Probably you know the cases of AlphaZero or AlphaGo, where these AIs invented strategies that were able to achieve the results in a very counterintuitive way for a human, obviously. But the results were extremely positive. And I think the same could happen also in soccer, in football. We will see in the non-distant future AI creating strategies, tactics that at the first glance will appear like strange, but at the end will produce interesting results. So maybe we will switch from a 4-3-3 formation to a 1-2-7 formation. This is just an example, but I think, yeah, the results of AI applied to football will be interesting on very different levels.
And Johnny, over to you, both from an on-pitch performance perspective, how do you see as the PA players, right, thinking about either their IP, right, image and likeness, or, right, sort of how the on-field wearable metrics, data, et cetera, are coming into play?
Yeah, so we think about this space you know, from a player, through a player, you know, lens. And so that means we're, you know, this is a cool space. This is an exciting space to be in. But the flip side of that is, you know, and it's our jobs to make sure that players, as, you know, one of the main stakeholders in this area, aren't being exploited in the process. And so for us, that means things like transparency are paramount, access to what's being collected on these players is paramount, players' ability to control the data, portability so that they can take it with them when they leave teams. You know, just this week I've been talking to a player who's, you know, on the tail end of his career. His contract is up. He's probably going into negotiations for his last contract, and he knows the team has, you know, a trove of data points on him that they're probably going to use against him in the negotiations, and that he can't access because the team won't give it to him. And so, you know, things like that are concerning for us. And so, as this space develops and continues to develop, yes, there are definitely very positive implications for players, but it's our job to make sure that players are educated on what the negative implications are, and, you know, to protect them from what those are.
Oh, I mean, certainly both timely and important, right? As more player empowerment comes into play, right? Athletes are starting businesses, whether that's on the data side or the technology side. So we can see, right, both the necessity, right, to own your data or have access to your data, but also, right, what are the potential revenue opportunities for players both at the beginning and at the end of their career?
Yeah, absolutely.
Christian, over to you. How is AI impacting both LAFC on the field as well as in venue?
So for LAFC, you know, we're really focused on AI in our venue. We own our own stadium, which is kind of a rare occurrence in professional sports, so BMO Stadium in Los Angeles. And our primary focus on AI is really customer satisfaction, right? So we've been using artificial intelligence for guest services since we opened the building way back in 2018. Seems like eons ago. And it was really having the ability to give customers the experience of understanding, you know, where things are at in the venue. They could ask questions. They can report, you know, mishaps, whatever that might be. And it really came down to just wanting to get wayfinding in a meaningful way. They had an interaction with a chatbot, and then If there's something that the AI can't answer, there's a live person on the other end of it. So that's worked out really well for us. And now we've started to expand on artificial intelligence in the guest experience, right? So one of the things we're doing now, we don't really advertise it, but we are using AI with face identity to really gauge customer satisfaction in certain experiences, right? We have a lot of autonomous retail systems in our venue today, and so we have planograms where we're selling, you know, canned cocktails, beer, wine, and water, candy, whatever it might be, but we have assumptions on the placement of those items. And so having an AI that can sit right there, and it's all anonymous, we don't know who you are, but when they come up, we can tell if they're delighted, if they're confused, if they're angry, whatever it might be, like, then we can start to plan things better in the future, not just in those units, but just in our retail experience. So that's something we've been working on, and now we're also hyper-focused on biometrics. So we've been doing a pilot with Ticketmaster using face identity for ticketing. We're moving that into the space of age verification and payment as well. And so we have an AI on the back end of that experience. The customer sees it, but they onboard themselves. You know, their face is in a profile, fully anonymous. It's just it's hard to explain it, but we don't really know who you are. It's a topology of your face, right? Your nose and your eyes, tied to a credit card and a government ID. And so there's an AI that goes out to the state of California. It pulls that information back to verify that you are who you are. And there's a lot of things on the back end between the state and our partner to verify. You can't game the system, it's just not possible. And so those are the kind of things that we're working on today. We expect that with artificial intelligence and machine learning in that operational flow, it'll definitely help us achieve less friction. We're starting to see, you know, dwell and wait times decrease. And then when you start to surprise and delight the customer and they see the types of products that they want to buy, then obviously that also makes things good, and they increase basket size, they buy more stuff, and everybody's happy. So that's kind of the stuff that we're working on today. It's very practical, not very sexy, but it's working.
But it leads to, right, the sexy over time. I'm sure the sales and sponsorship team, right, thinking about how AI can impact, right, the learnings that you're seeing, whether that's for cost of purchase, but also, right, what are the potential opportunities to bring in a strategic partner? I know Delta, right, has been one that you guys have worked with in the past. Is there synergy, right, to bring in other parts of the business as y'all are developing AI opportunities?
Definitely. I think sometimes, you know, a lot of the technology we work with is relatively new. Some of it is a bit esoteric, and so you've got, you know, our partnerships team and some of our partners, prospective partners, need to catch up a little bit to where we're at. But end of the day, there are things that, you know, we've got partners excited about, right? Some of the retail strategy stuff we're working on with Amazon, for example. Like we have one of our partners, King's Hawaiian, makes amazing food. That's going to be fully autonomous next season. So you're not going to have to talk to anybody to buy a phenomenal chicken sandwich. So come to LA and try it out. But yeah, those are the types of things that we're working on today.
Love that. And Aldo, how are you all thinking about, right, driving adoption? To Christian's point, right, a lot of partners, right, are still sort of getting their bearings, right, or understanding how they participate from a business strategy perspective. How do you feel Soccerment is going to help continue to drive adoption for AI in the market?
Yeah, well, one thing where we are very focused is player development. For example, we have these smart shingers powered by AI that are used in youth football, and that, you know, allows us to have allows the players, young players, to have their own data, to have objective feedback about their performance, and to own their data, which is becoming more and more important. In the future it will be a key aspect to keep in mind also for the clubs. And yeah, like having the player development embedded into your system that, you know, talks to the AI that is used for match analysis, for scouting, makes the approach very holistic, and that is how basically you create synergies between the various parts in a football club, in my view.
Love that. And then Johnny, to you, how do you see, I know we talked a little bit from an entrepreneurial or player empowerment perspective, how do you see the union, right, helping players understand both the strength that AI can provide them, whether from a training perspective or business opportunities from a, say, an IP perspective, right? If I'm a former player and I want to create a filter or a mobile product, right, how is the union positioned, right, to help them advance?
Yeah, you know, I think we kind of have to, there's a huge educational component to all of this, and it's incumbent on us to do that educating, I think. And you know, so that's you know, we're in front of players 2 or 3 times a year, talking about a host of issues. But this is going to be as this becomes more and more of a focus for us. This will definitely be and continue to be a topic that we harp on. Again, just to make sure that guys understand the balance there. You know, with the good can potentially be the bad, but to be sure, there are revenue streams possible here, and as long as players you know, have sort of agency over those decisions and you know, consent to how that data is being used, you know, that's what's paramount for us, is just the, you know, again, the transparency, the control, the consent, so that guys understand and are aware of what is being collected, how it's being used, and yes, if you know, so that they can use those commercial opportunities, because they are there, and there will just be more in the future.
For sure. And then Aldo, we were talking a little bit about the wearable aspect, right, as another sort of key part of performance. How do you see wearables evolving, right, in the world with shin guards, or, right, players oftentimes are wearing different products on their back, right, that are tracking pace. How do you see that evolving in the next couple months or years?
Well, I think AI will play an important role here for injury prevention and rehabilitation, which is becoming more and of an issue now. It is very important that players stay fit and they recover well after the injury. Obviously, wearables like our shin guards, but also like you know, the GPS vest that you see under the jerseys of football players are important tools to have the data to train all those algorithms that can detect whether you are close to an injury or if you have recovered fully after an injury. I think that is a key aspect of it. And you know, with the wearable, you can have the data both during trainings and during matches as well. And so you can see the differences between the training loads and what you do during an official match, and that is very, very important to understand whether you are overloading or not, and if that has an impact on your performance also, but also on your health. It's a key aspect.
And Christian, as having one of the premier clubs in MLS, but with such a deep-seated culture in the community, how do you see AI, right, helping the business, the overall product from a club side evolve, as you all are both sort of getting learnings in real time, but also sort of some of the long-term propositions you feel like it can bring to both the venue, whether that's on customer purchases or enhanced experiences?
Yeah, I think for us, you know, ultimately our end game, well, there's never going to be a real end game. But what we're trying to do now is really just eliminate friction. So we have people that come in for LAFC. We've got Angel City Football Club as well. And we do a ton of concerts and other events. And so we really just want to get rid of the lines that you see when people want to buy stuff, right? Like they want to spend money and then they go, and we talk to people all the time, by the way, primarily our customers, to understand what they like, what they don't like, friction points. And you know, they don't want to get out of their seat and wait in line for 20 minutes to buy a beer, right? So those are the types of things that we're using technology to solve for, and it just happens that artificial intelligence and machine learning exist on those platforms to help us be more efficient, right? So instead of having humans do certain tasks, everything's left to the machines, which kind of sounds a bit daunting. You know, people worry about Skynet and becoming self-aware and whatnot. But so we're working through that stuff. And then at the end of the day, you know, you look at a venue like BMO Stadium. You know, we just want to be best in class. We want to be highly efficient, and we want to make as much money as we can.
Certainly makes the most sense, right? How do we maximize revenue? Everybody participates, right? But ultimately, how do you provide the best in-venue experience for your fan base? I'm just curious, Aldo, as you start to see, right, the youth game, especially here in the U.S., how do you think that younger players, right? We're probably at a tipping point with AI now being something that a younger player would never be without. How do you see it really being used at the youth level for development, right? If you're a parent that doesn't come from a soccer background, how do you really sort of see your products, right, being able to help them with the use of AI?
Well, player development is an important aspect that can be optimized a lot from what has been done in the past. Everything so far is 100% subjective. No, these kids have only subjective feedbacks from the coaches, from their parents, from their uncles, and sometimes, or let's say most of the times, these feedbacks they have are not very consistent, and so the kids can get kind of confused about how they are performing. Now, if you have an objective feedback instead, everybody involved with the performance of the kid is aligned. You know, you have a reference, and you can build on it. You can see where you do right, where you could do better, and that helps you at achieving your improvement in the future. Also, AI allows these kids to have sort of personalized training. Not only the kids, but you know, footballers at every age, basically. Obviously, the professionals. So more and more, you will see professional players, but everybody having more personalized training sessions, so to improve in the areas where they are maybe below average.
And Christian, is that an opportunity the club would potentially explore, right, where you're able to participate in some level of gamification with an AI product in the concourse? Just curious to see how sort of beyond, right, use cases for AI in venue beyond beer lines.
Yeah, you know, there are a lot of interesting activations out in the world today. You see a lot of, you know, people using virtual reality, augmented reality type activations to have, you know, player appearances virtually, things like that. You know, we've looked at them, and frankly, you know, our head of brand is not really keen on any of those things. And then when you start to talk to our fans anyway, they're really not all that interested. Like if, you know, if they want to do a player appearance, then have a player show up.
Right.
Being on a screen's not really all that exciting to them.
Having the eagle fly down in AI isn't high
Now,
on their
having
list.
a real hawk flying through the venue is something that's an exciting thing, and that's what we do. But having a fake one, like, you're going to get a headline for like 5 minutes, and then it's done, and you've just spent $2 million creating a fake eagle. So it's like, okay, that's interesting, but not. But yeah, I think if there's practical application in the future, we'll look at it. You know, ultimately for us, it really has to be a touch point around retail or food and beverage operations, because those technologies do exist. There are things that we're working on in the future that will use virtual reality, but not in the way you think it is today. But down the road, there's some things that we're cooking up, and then in a really unsexy environment, we actually use augmented reality for engineering. And so working on our venue, using that technology to replace parts and coolers and things like that, just like they do in the airline industry. It's not exciting, but it works.
Right.
And it reduces our expenses because we're able to solve problems faster and understand how to replace things, you know, those types of things. Super easy.
I mean, knowing, right, I think, Aldo, as you touched on at the top, right, AI really meant to help us customize, right? Just curious how you all see the next short window of time, say 6 months to a year, where AI maybe potentially surprise you in your respective fields.
Yeah, stay tuned. Honestly, like there are so many practical applications, not only for artificial intelligence, but multiple tech platforms in our industry, and we're trying everything. I mean, LAFC will try anything once. That's what we tell people, and we hold true to that.
Aldo, how about for you, or Johnny?
Yeah, I think, not to sound like a broken record, but I think that as players become more and more aware of, the optical tracking is huge right now, and FIFA boasted about, I think it was like 8,000 data points per player per game in the World Cup. As things like that become more publicized and players become more aware of the risks, but also the opportunities out there, I think that you'll just see more and more player engagement with it. And I think ultimately that will make for a better, probably a better viewing product for games. But then, hopefully, I think the holy, Aldo mentioned it a minute ago. I think the holy grail here is injury prevention and injury predictability. And I would, I could probably be counted as a skeptic in that space at the moment, but I hope I'm proven wrong, and that's where I would love to see this really go, because that to me is really exciting, and where you can really, where you would obviously really see some very impactful applications for the player.
Aldo?
Well, as Johnny was saying, I think that for the players, AI could be a risk, but if handled well, could be a huge opportunity. I mean, we have seen in the recent past footballers going to negotiate their contracts like with reports of data instead of agents. No, it was this very famous case of Kevin De Bruyne negotiating his contract with Manchester City without his agent, but with a player report. I think that will increase. We are getting a lot of incomings. We are closing partnerships with top players who want to basically be supported in their understanding of their data. Recently, we have announced the partnership with one of the best players of Inter Milan, Federico Di Marco. He's also becoming an ambassador of the company. But yeah, the idea is to support Federico to achieve his goals through our technology and through our insights.
Just a quick follow-up to Johnny. How would the PA explore a player negotiating his contract with AI? Is that something that you feel like is close?
I think the way I view that, we don't have the, we at the PA don't have the internal expertise to be able to do that analysis that the player would be looking for. What we can do, though, is, negotiate for better player access, or just fight to get the player access that he would need to then be able to do like Kevin De Bruyne did with his contract, so that players can take that data to their to a player facing company to do the analysis to make it more of a fair fight, so to speak, when for contract negotiations or other use cases.
Awesome. Well, folks, that wraps us up for today. I appreciate y'all attending us. Hopefully there was some good takeaways from our panel today, but thank you.